Welcome back to Tech Nuggets. This is yet another video on how to Dockerize MySQL DB. While Dockerizing, unlike standalone applications, there are some complexities involved in Dockerizing databases. We will discuss those points later. By the way, if you are watching this channel first time or not a subscriber yet, please scroll down and hit the subscribe button now and follow me on Twitter. Let's dive into today's topic. First of all, let us get to the basic steps what is required. There are 3 steps involved in Dockerizing MySQL DB. Step 1. Pull or run Docker image from public repository. Please listen carefully. Pull the image, not build the image. Like building this image is something like what you do with your own application. However, there are certain applications, they have their official versions. Okay, so that's why we are going to pull the image from the public repository. We will use that image to create a container. Okay, so we will be using official MySQL Docker image to build this container. Step 2. After we containerized, how do we connect to the database, either CLI or GUI such as MySQL Workbench. Finally, in database, the data needs to be persisted, meaning it should survive crashes and restarts. We will see how do we do that. Okay, now let us see how do we get this image. Okay, first thing, we'll go to hub.docker.com. because this is a public repository. You will get almost all of the application images freely. It's a public repository. Okay, so let's see, go to explore, and also you can create your own repository and you can put your images. For that you need to register and sign in with your own email ID. Okay, so as soon as you click on explore, you will have various filters. For example, I can filter based on the product images, extensions, plugins, and the main thing which we have to see, the trusted content. One is a Docker official image. That's a very important filter which we have to use. There are other verified publisher plus sponsored OSS. Okay, then again you have filters like operating system, architecture, all of that. So this page shows whichever the latest whatever is happening. So what we are looking for is a MySQL. Let's go ahead and select for it. Okay, so MySQL, what we are looking here is about Docker official image. That's it, says Docker official image of MySQL. Let's go ahead and click this. So the advantage of official image, because this is sponsored, I mean it is the official version of the product itself. The image is from the product itself and it has got a good documentation and good support. Okay, then once you go here, you will find what are the versions supported, what are the basic commands to run this. For example, first basic command, docker pull MySQL. So that's a basic command to use this image. And also it has got the information how to use this images, what are the various commands, how do we use, all of that, plus environment variables, because database requires username, password. So all of that will be explained. You can go through the details and find out as usual. So Docker is free for personal use. It's got a pricing for other commercial use. Okay, so rest of this video will use this official image to build it. Okay, let us go ahead and build some containers. So what we will be doing is we are going to create a Docker container using this command. Then we'll log in through interactive console with this command and we'll execute this following commands through CLI. That basically will create a schema, then create tables and show the content. So in order to do that, we need a command line tool. So I will be using Windows command line tool. You can use your choice of CLI based on your operating system. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up that. Got it. Okay, now first thing, what is the version of Docker? So Docker version 20.10.17 build. Okay, so let's find out, do we have any running container? Docker ps, nope. So Docker ps -a. If there is any stopped container, there is no containers running. I have cleaned up. So what about the images? Docker images, yes, we do have, because this images I pulled as part of the previous trial, or while practicing I did, but however it was a 4 weeks ago old image, that is 446 MB. That's a base image of MySQL. However, we have seen in the site there is a new update happen. So when we pull here, it's not going to pull the entire image, it's going to pull only updates, because we have the base image already. Okay, let's go ahead and run the command now. So what we are doing, docker run -- names is docker MySQL. So the container name will be MySQL. Then I'm exposing port 3306. -e represents environment variable. So as I mentioned, there are certain environment variable to be passed. That's MySQL root password. It's a password. It's a quite complicated password. No one can guess it. Just kidding. Okay, let's go ahead and run those. Super. What happened? Let's debug this. That's getting more interesting. Okay, so what was wrong? I did not specify the image where it has to pick. For example, this one, just I added -d MySQL. So it's somehow typo and it missed. Again, let's try this. Okay, docker run name docker MySQL -p3306. That's your port number, exposing that. And environment variable MySQL root password equal to password -d MySQL. So yeah, I can say specify which version I want, but I'm going to take a latest version. Voila. So you created a container and it is running. As I mentioned, we already had a base image, so that's why it was lightning fast. Let's go ahead and list the containers. Docker ps, you can see that MySQL is running 19 seconds ago, and it's listening on the port 3306. Now what we have to do, let's go ahead and say we need to enter into this command just once. Okay, let's get into this container and create this schema and tables. Okay, so what is the command for that? So docker execute exe interactive mode docker MySQL bash. Okay, so you entered into bash mode. Now let us see, we need to use this, we need to log in using MySQL command. Okay, so MySQL host is localhost, user root -- password. It will ask you the password. So now you are into MySQL console. So you are inside the container. Please remember that you are inside the container. Okay, now let's create a schema. create schema test. Okay, now let's create a table and let's use this. So db chain to this one. Now let's go ahead and create okay, so it's a book table. There is id, name, title, simple table. So it's created. Let's insert some rows. So let's insert a row. Okay, and let's insert another row. Now let's select this, start from, voila. So you're containerized, you created a schema, you created a table, you inserted record, and you are able to see that. Awesome, perfect. So now you passed the basic. Now I'll show you this or the same table how it looks in GUI part. Okay, now let's go ahead and use MySQL Workbench to connect to this containerized database. What do you do first? Okay, we'll say my Docker connection. Okay, so it's the same. If you remember the port number 3306 and username, password, and schema we don't have to select, we'll go and find there, say okay, say connection, so it was the password what you gave. Okay, it is successful, click OK, say OK. Now let's go ahead and connect to this. So once you connect, you select the schema. You remember you created a schema called test. Then there is a table. There's a table, of course. There's a table called book, and select this. Awesome. So you are able to see two of your records which you created from CLI, which is running on Docker MySQL. Perfect. By the way, if you are enjoying this video so far, please subscribe it and like it and share it. So far so good. As I mentioned earlier, data in the database to be persisted. How does this persistent happens in this case? The answer is volume. By default, MySQL image creates anonymous volume and attached to the container. Please note this volume will exist as long as container exists. Meaning, if you delete the container, volume also will get deleted. Remember, the containers are ephemeral. It can crash or we may have to delete some point of time. If you are deleting the container, surprisingly, you will not find the data next time. The reason is volume also would have been deleted as part of deletion of the container. So, in order to avoid this problem, what we can do, let us add a named volume while creating a container so that it will not delete the volume until unless we delete it manually. The command for that, -v MySQL data, that's volume name and the path of the volume where it has to be created. So once volume is created, we'll keep the volume, will not delete it. So every time when we create a container, you reuse the same volume so that your data is preserved and we can use the data. Even the container is destroyed also, you will have the data intact. Okay, let us go ahead and see this in the command line. Now first thing, let us see the volume, whether it is there. Docker volume ls. Yes, there is a volume. Okay, and see the image docker ps. Yes, it's existing. Now let's go ahead and remove this container. How do we do that? Docker rm image id, that's a container, sorry, container id. You cannot remove running container. Stop the container before attempting to remove it. Okay, there's a way we can do. We can either stop or we can force remove. Let's do the okay. Let's go ahead and stop the container. Docker stop docker stop, take the container id, we have stopped the container. Now let's remove this. Now let's go ahead and say docker volume ls. Still this volume is there, however it is anonymous. Okay, we can use prune command to remove the unused volumes, right? What we can do, let's go docker volume okay, it will give you whichever the local volume which is unused, it's going to delete it. Say yes, removed. Okay, so that's how we remove the volume. Even though if you have this volume, we can't use it until unless you have the proper volume id. Okay, let's go ahead and create a command with named volume. Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's go ahead and create a docker with the named volume. Let's okay, so you can see this, there is a -v MySQL data, then there is a volume. This is a default path of MySQL. Let's go ahead and create this. Okay, that created. Now let's see docker ps, then you will see docker volume ls. You can see that local and volume data, MySQL data. So this volume can be reused again and again with the new containers, even though you delete any of the container. Okay, so this is about this video on Dockerizing MySQL. One last thing, all of this command we can do it through the command line, and if you want to do the easy maintenance and management, you remember we did the Docker desktop, we can see this also from Docker desktop. For example, you can see the volume and containers and images. So one good thing about this is, from here if you try to delete, automatically it will delete the associated anonymous volumes. Okay, so that's all about this video. Thank you very much for your time. See you in the next video. Thank you.